When your clients buy exotic fruit, what do they look at?
They ask about the origin, where they come from. For example, mangoes, if they come by boat or by plane.
I buy fruits from all around the world, but I'm always aware of their long distance for traveling. I follow the 80-20 rule. 80% local, 80% good for you, 20% not always so good for the environment or for you.
I prefer to take beans deep frozen to be sure that it's from here, from Belgium, not to take the airplane. Yes, I'm trying to pay attention about this, yes. And I'm also not buying exotic fruits and stuff like that.
It would be nicer to have a Belgian pineapple, but I think I wouldn't get that.
Between advocates for the environment and supporters of development aid, food transport is a major issue.
Food miles basically entered the public eye during the 90s, and they represent the total number of miles occurring during the transportation of food from field to fork. The food miles measure only one environmental impact: greenhouse gas emissions, occurring during one phase, the transport phase.
In this debate over food transport, we need to distinguish two different types of product. The ones that don't grow naturally in our climate, such as pineapples and other exotic fruit, and those that can be cultivated here in season, such as French beans. Let's start with the pineapple. On this farm in Ivory Coast, some of the growing pineapples will be shipped on a plane to Europe. They bear a blue ribbon to indicate that they need to ripen for longer on their stalk than the ones that will go by boat. The boxes of airplane pineapples will be transported to the airport. The other ones, the majority, will be shipped to Europe by boat, a less polluting mode of transport. During the past few years, supermarkets have begun to sell products with air freight labels. Some consumers prefer fruit that has arrived by air because it has ripened longer in the sun, which improves the taste.
If air transport ensures the vegetable or fruit is riper, I think it's better.
Others won't buy air-freighted pineapples out of ecological convictions.
No, I prefer not to buy food that comes from far away. I would prefer to buy local produce.
Let's take a closer look now at French beans.
Doesn't it shock people to buy beans that have come from so far away?
No, because they're really good quality, you know. During the winter, there's nothing else either, right? So they've got to come from Kenya, because there's nothing else that's really good.
During the winter, French beans are imported from Africa. As a highly perishable product, they have to be transported very quickly to the point of sale, which means by plane. Hardline environmentalists condemn the sourcing of food products by air. Some pressure groups would like to stop these imports, or at least limit them. But we need to be aware of the economic benefits generated by horticulture, which allows southern countries to partially finance their development. A large part of this produce is cultivated by small farmers, and the sector employs hundreds of thousands of workers, among them many women, who generally have few alternative income-generating opportunities in terms of employment. Naturally, African fruit and vegetable producers protest against the food miles concept.
Food miles is a problem to our horticulture industry, and sometimes we even feel it's more of a trade barrier than it is on the environment. Because if you look at our production, we don't emit as much carbon as our counterparts in Europe when they are doing their production. And most of our horticulture products are transported by the planes, the passenger trains. And whether we load the produce or we don't load, we feel still those planes will emit some level of carbon. And if you calculate the level of carbon that is emitted as a result of direct from the horticulture produce, for sure we feel is not as much as the lobbyists in Europe would want the consumer to think.
The debate around food miles has since been widened to the concept of carbon footprinting, which takes not only the transport into account, but also the entire life cycle of the product.
Today, we are talking more about life cycle analysis. What is a life cycle analysis? It's basically the idea to measure all the environmental impacts occurring from all the activities that enabled the product to be produced, transformed, processed, distributed, consumed, and finally eliminated and or recycled. And that's why when limiting the analysis to greenhouse gas emissions, we talk today about product carbon footprinting.
Today, specialists go even further. They're studying not only the carbon footprint of food products throughout their life cycles, but also other environmental impacts: soil, water, resources, ecosystems, and of course, climate change. The problem is complex and calculations often divide experts.
The debate needs to be really brought back into perspective. Why? Well, simply because fruit and vegetable exports do represent substantial incomes for a number of developing countries, and that when you take into consideration basically the relative contribution of Africa to the total number of greenhouse gas emissions on Earth, it becomes really difficult to justify the need to make the small producer in Africa accountable for our lifestyle in Europe.
One thing is certain: buying products grown in southern countries has a positive impact on tackling poverty.
The beans we see at the moment on the shelves come from Kenya, so do you prefer not to buy beans during this season?
No, I buy French beans because it keeps the Kenyan economy alive, and it costs less to grow beans in Kenya. Less costly for the environment because they're grown naturally. They grow in the earth without special inputs or heated greenhouses. And on top of that, they taste good. And it provides a living to a few Kenyans. So no, I have no scruples about it. It's like Kenyan strawberries in winter. I think you have to buy them as well.